The Art of Being Alone. Lessons from Famous Philosophers. Stoicism. The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Epictetus. Have you ever found yourself amidst a crowd, yet feeling an overwhelming sense of loneliness? Or perhaps you've been alone, surrounded by silence, and instead of fear, you felt a deep sense of connection with yourself? Solitude isn't just about being physically alone. It's about embracing the quiet moments, where the only voice you hear is your own. A space where reflection meets self-discovery. In today's world, where the buzz of notifications and the pressure of social interaction never seem to fade, the idea of being alone can seem both daunting and isolating. Society often equates solitude with loneliness, painting it as a state to be avoided, a sign of weakness or social failure. The digital age only amplifies this fear. Every moment of silence is filled with noise, every opportunity for solitude interrupted. But what if we reframe this narrative? What if being alone is not something to dread, but a powerful tool for growth and resilience? What if solitude could unlock a deeper understanding of ourselves, offering clarity and strength in a world full of distractions? In this video, on Stoic in Your Life, we'll journey through the teachings of some of history's greatest minds, philosophers who revered solitude not as an affliction, but as an essential element of the human experience. We'll delve into their wisdom, uncovering the lessons they left behind on how solitude can lead to true contentment and inner peace. In a world where constant connection is just a click away, the idea of being alone can seem daunting, even undesirable. Yet some of history's greatest minds have found profound value in solitude. This is not about loneliness, but rather about embracing solitude as a means to personal growth and self-discovery. As we delve into the lives and teachings of philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche, Henry David Thoreau, Søren Kierkegaard, Rollo May, Carl Jung, and modern thinkers like Jordan Peterson, we uncover the transformative power of solitude. Let's start with Nietzsche, a philosopher who dared to challenge the norms of his time and whose thoughts on solitude remain strikingly relevant today. Friedrich Nietzsche, a towering figure in 19th century philosophy, revolutionized Western thought with his bold ideas on morality, truth, and most pertinently for our discussion, solitude. Nietzsche's philosophy, steeped in complexity and contradiction, is a call to break free from the constraints of societal norms and to embrace the daunting yet liberating path of individuality. He argued that true greatness could only be achieved by those who have the courage to stand alone, away from the comforting but limiting embrace of the crowd. Solitude for Nietzsche was not just a state of being alone, but a crucible for self-transformation and self-overcoming. In solitude, he believed one could wrestle with the deepest questions of existence and emerge as a stronger, more authentic self. Nietzsche's concept of the path of greatness is particularly illuminating here. He posited that to reach this level of greatness, one must first step away from the herd, confront the fears that accompany loneliness, and ultimately cultivate the strength to become who one truly is. His assertion: the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself, encapsulates this idea. Nietzsche is telling us that the journey to self-ownership, to true greatness, is fraught with challenges, but the reward, complete ownership of oneself, is worth every moment of solitude. Now let's consider Henry David Thoreau, who, in his retreat to Walden Pond, demonstrated the beauty of simple, deliberate living in solitude. Thoreau's experiment was not merely an escape from society, but a purposeful withdrawal to better understand himself and the world around him. Through this self-imposed solitude, Thoreau discovered that stripping life down to its essentials allows one to focus on what truly matters. His famous quote, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived, speaks volumes about the value of solitude in gaining clarity and purpose in life. Thoro and Kierkegaard, the father of existentialism, similarly embraced solitude as a path to authenticity. Kierkegaard believed that to truly understand oneself and one's purpose, one must look inward, often in isolation. He argued that the noise of society drowns out the inner voice, and only in solitude can we hear our true calling. "The crowd is untruth," he famously said, urging us to find truth within ourselves rather than in the opinions of others. Kierkegaard's insights remind us that solitude is not just a space for reflection, but a necessary condition for finding and living out our true purpose. Rollo May, an existential psychologist, expanded on these ideas by exploring the concept of existential isolation. The idea that, at our core, we are alone in our experiences, and that this isolation is a fundamental aspect of the human condition. Yet, rather than viewing this as a negative, May saw it as an opportunity for personal growth. He believed that by embracing our existential solitude, we could develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and, paradoxically, forge more meaningful connections with others. May's perspective is particularly relevant in today's hyper-connected world, where many of us struggle with feelings of disconnection despite being constantly online. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, also saw value in solitude. He introduced the concept of individuation, the process by which a person becomes their true self, integrating all aspects of their personality. Jung believed that solitude was crucial for this process, as it allows individuals to confront their unconscious mind and bring their hidden thoughts and feelings into the light. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes, Jung said, emphasizing the importance of introspection and solitude in personal growth. Modern thinkers like Jordan Peterson have echoed these sentiments, advocating for the necessity of solitude in building resilience and self-growth. Peterson often speaks about the importance of facing one's demons, which requires a level of introspection that can only be achieved in solitude. He argues that by confronting the darker parts of ourselves, we can build the strength and character needed to navigate life's challenges. The art of being alone is not about escaping the world, but about stepping back to gain a clearer perspective on ourselves and our lives. Whether it's Nietzsche's path of greatness, Thoreau's deliberate living, Kierkegaard's search for authenticity, May's existential growth, Jung's individuation, or Peterson's call for resilience, each of these thinkers highlights the profound value of solitude. In a world that often equates being alone with loneliness, they remind us that solitude is a powerful tool for personal transformation and self-ownership. So, as you navigate your own life, remember that taking time to be alone isn't just beneficial, it's essential for your growth, your authenticity, and your journey towards becoming who you truly are. This distinction between loneliness and solitude is not just a play on words. It's a fundamental shift in how we perceive being alone. Loneliness, as Nietzsche saw it, is a state of lacking, a yearning for others that leaves us feeling empty and isolated. Solitude, however, is something entirely different. It is a state of fullness, where you are not merely alone, but in the company of yourself, an opportunity to connect with your inner being, to reflect, to grow, and to find strength in your own presence. Nietzsche's insight offers a powerful lesson. Solitude is not something to fear. It is something to seek out, a transformative space where you can become the greatest version of yourself. In a world that often equates being alone with weakness or inadequacy, Nietzsche challenges us to see solitude as a crucible for self-transformation. It is in solitude that we confront our deepest thoughts and feelings, unfiltered by the influence of others. This is where we find the courage to define who we truly are, away from the noise of societal expectations and the pressures to conform. Have you ever considered that the moments you spend alone might be the most crucial to your personal growth? Nietzsche believed that greatness requires a journey into solitude, a willingness to face oneself without distractions, and to emerge stronger, more independent, and more authentic. So, if you ever find yourself alone, rather than despairing, Embrace it. See it as an opportunity to walk the path of greatness that Nietzsche speaks of, where solitude becomes a friend and a guide. But Nietzsche is not alone in this thinking. The concept of finding strength and clarity in solitude has been echoed by many great thinkers throughout history. Henry David Thoreau, for instance, chose to live alone at Walden Pond, not as an escape from the world, but as a way to reconnect with the essence of life. He famously said, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life." Thoreau's time in solitude was not about isolation, but about stripping away the unnecessary, the distractions, to discover what truly mattered. Have you ever wondered what you might discover if you took a step back from the busyness of life? Thoreau's example reminds us that solitude can be a time to reflect on what is essential, to reconnect with our values, and to find clarity in the simplicity of being alone. In our fast-paced modern world, the concept of being alone often evokes discomfort, a fear of loneliness, or a sense of inadequacy. Yet, some of the greatest minds in history have viewed solitude not as something to be avoided, but as a profound and necessary path to self-understanding. Take the 19th century Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, for example, who is often hailed as the father of existentialism. Kierkegaard's work revolved around the individual, his existence, his subjective experiences, and his personal journey towards becoming his truest self. He believed that solitude was an essential part of this journey, a sentiment echoed in his writings, which delve deeply into the complexities of human existence and the existential challenges we all face. He wasn't alone in this view. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This idea that solitude serves as a retreat into the self, where one can engage in introspection and confront the anxieties that accompany the quest for authenticity, is central to both Stoic and existential thought. Kierkegaard argued that true self-discovery requires solitude, because only in the absence of external distractions can we truly confront our innermost fears and desires. This confrontation, while often uncomfortable, is necessary for personal growth. It's in these moments of solitude that we can reflect on our lives, make peace with our anxieties, and find the courage to chart our own course. In this way, solitude becomes not a state of loneliness but a powerful tool for self-empowerment. The modern world, with its constant demands and distractions, often pulls us away from this essential practice. But Kierkegaard reminds us that taking time to be alone with our thoughts is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's in these quiet moments that we can discern what truly matters to us, and in doing so, we learn to take responsibility for our own existence. In today's context, where the pressure to conform to societal norms is ever present, Kierkegaard's emphasis on individuality and solitude is more relevant than ever. His teachings encourage us to step back from the noise of the world, to spend time in reflection, and to embrace the solitude that allows us to discover who we really are. By doing so, we empower ourselves to live authentically, to make decisions that are true to our values, and to lead a life that is genuinely our own. As Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, wisely observed, "No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." This quote reminds us that the process of self-discovery and personal growth takes time, and solitude is the fertile ground in which our true selves can blossom. Therefore, embrace solitude as a time for introspection and growth. In doing so, you align yourself with the wisdom of the ages, following in the footsteps of great philosophers who understood that the art of being alone is not about isolation, but about cultivating a deeper connection with oneself. This practice of solitude, far from being a retreat from life, is actually a powerful step towards living a more authentic and fulfilling existence. Kierkegaard's reflection on solitude offers a profound lesson that resonates deeply in our modern world, where the pressure to conform and blend in with the crowd often drowns out the quiet voice of our true selves. He famously said, "The crowd is untruthful." This isn't just a philosophical statement. It's a call to action for each of us to step away from the noise and find the courage to be alone with our thoughts. Kierkegaard's belief that Christ was crucified not because he opposed the masses, but because he chose not to align with them, serves as a powerful metaphor for the risks and rewards of pursuing truth as an individual. Christ's refusal to let the crowd define him underscores the importance of standing firm in one's beliefs even when it means standing alone. This idea might feel particularly relevant today, where social media, societal expectations, and the desire to fit in often pressure us to lose our individuality. Kierkegaard goes further, stating, "The more one isolates oneself, the closer one comes to oneself." In this, he suggests that solitude isn't just about being physically alone. It's about creating a space where we can truly connect with our inner selves. Rather than being something to fear, isolation can be a powerful tool for self-discovery. Think about the last time you spent a quiet evening alone, free from distractions. Didn't it give you a moment to reflect, to understand yourself better, to untangle the thoughts that get muddled in the busyness of everyday life? Kierkegaard's insight invites us to reframe our understanding of solitude, not as loneliness, but as an opportunity to delve into the depths of who we are. Consider a modern story. A young professional, overwhelmed by the constant buzz of notifications, social gatherings, and endless work demands, decided to take a weekend off to retreat into nature. At first, the silence was deafening and the absence of connectivity felt unnerving. But as the hours passed, she began to rediscover parts of herself she'd long neglected. Her thoughts became clearer, her anxieties more manageable, and in that solitude she found the clarity to make decisions that aligned more closely with her true desires rather than the expectations of others. This experience mirrors Kierkegaard's belief that in solitude, we peel away the layers imposed by the external world and touch the core of our being. Now, I ask you, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be truly alone, to disconnect from the expectations of others and listen only to your inner voice? What might you discover about yourself if you did? Kierkegaard's reflections challenge us to embrace solitude as a path to self-discovery, urging us to step away from the crowd and find the truth within ourselves. The lesson here is simple but profound. Solitude is not something to be feared, but something to be sought. In solitude, we find the space to confront our true selves, to wrestle with our fears, and to emerge stronger and more authentic. As we navigate the pressures of modern life, let's remember that stepping away from the crowd and into the quiet can lead us closer to the truth of who we really are. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video. How do you perceive and embrace solitude in your life? Have you found any particular Stoic practices or philosophical insights that have helped you navigate moments of being alone? If you're not sure how to start your comment, you might share a simple thought like, "I've found that solitude helps me to reconnect with my inner self," or, "I'm curious how others practice solitude in their daily lives." I look forward to reading your insights and experiences. Imagine yourself stepping back into 19th century America, where the bustling cities and growing industrialization painted a vivid contrast to the untouched beauty of nature. Now, picture a man who deliberately chose to step away from all of this, seeking not just physical solitude but a deeper, more profound connection with himself and the world around him. This man was Henry David Thoreau, born in 1817, an American philosopher, writer, and naturalist whose life and work continued to resonate with those who seek meaning in a world often filled with noise and distraction. Thoreau's life wasn't just about contemplation. It was about action, about putting into practice the very principles he cherished: self-reliance, simplicity, and an unwavering respect for the natural world. Thoreau wasn't content with merely theorizing about solitude. He was determined to experience it fully. In his seminal work, Walden, Thoreau recounts his experiment in deliberate living. For 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days he lived alone in a small cabin he built himself by the tranquil shores of Walden Pond, just outside Concord, Massachusetts. This wasn't just an escape from society, but rather a purposeful retreat, a journey inward, away from the distractions of everyday life, to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, as he famously wrote. Thoreau's time at Walden Pond was an exercise in stripping away the unnecessary, the superfluous, to discover what truly mattered. But why did Thoreau seek such profound solitude? What did he hope to find in the silence of the woods? These are questions worth pondering as they speak directly to the human condition, the eternal quest for meaning, clarity, and peace. Thoreau's experiment was not about loneliness. It was about solitude, a state that allowed him to fully engage with his thoughts and the world around him. In our modern world, where we're constantly bombarded by information and distractions, Thoreau's quest feels especially relevant. He teaches us that solitude isn't something to be feared or avoided. Rather, it is a necessary space where we can reconnect with our deepest selves, find clarity in our thoughts, and truly observe the world around us. Consider Thoreau's words from Walden. "I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude." What does this mean for us today? Thoreau suggests that true companionship, the kind that nurtures our soul, can often be found not in the company of others, but in the quiet moments we spend alone. This is a radical idea in a world that often equates being alone with being lonely. Thoreau challenges this notion by proposing that solitude is not only desirable, but essential for personal growth and self-understanding. Yet, how many of us take the time to seek out this solitude? How often do we allow ourselves to be truly alone with our thoughts, without the distractions of phones, social media, or the constant hum of modern life? Thoreau's experience at Walden Pond invites us to reconsider our relationship with solitude. He shows us that when we strip away the distractions, we are left with the raw materials of life, our thoughts, our observations, our innermost feelings. And it is in this space that we can begin to understand who we are, what we value, and how we wish to live. Thoreau's life at Walden Pond was also a lesson in simplicity. He believed that by simplifying our lives, by reducing our needs and desires to the essentials, we could find a greater sense of fulfillment. In Walden, he writes, "Simplify, simplify." These two words capture the essence of his philosophy. Thoreau wasn't advocating for a life devoid of pleasure or comfort, but rather for a life where those pleasures and comforts are chosen deliberately and with intention. He believed that in simplifying our lives, we could free ourselves from the endless pursuit of material wealth and instead focus on what truly brings us joy and satisfaction. But how do we apply Thoreau's lessons to our own lives? How do we find solitude and simplicity in a world that seems to demand the opposite? Perhaps the answer lies in small, intentional changes. It might mean setting aside time each day to be alone with our thoughts, without the distractions of technology. It could involve reevaluating our possessions and asking ourselves whether they truly add value to our lives. Or it might mean seeking out nature, even in small ways, to reconnect with the world around us. Thoreau's experiment at Walden Pond is not just a historical anecdote, it is a timeless lesson in the art of being alone. It teaches us that solitude is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. It is a space where we can discover our truest selves, where we can engage deeply with our thoughts in the world, and where we can find a sense of peace and clarity that is often elusive in our daily lives. As Thoreau himself wrote, "We are for the most part more lonely when we go abroad among men than when we stay in our chambers." This observation challenges us to rethink our understanding of loneliness and solitude, urging us to see the value in spending time alone, in reflecting, and in simplifying our lives. So I ask you, how will you embrace solitude in your own life? How will you create space for reflection and simplicity? These are not easy questions, but they are important ones. Thoreau's journey to Walden Pond was not just about escaping the world, it was about finding himself. In following his example, we too might discover that solitude, rather than being a source of loneliness, can be the greatest companion of all, leading us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world we inhabit. Thoreau famously retreated to the woods at Walden Pond, not to escape life but to embrace it fully. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived, he wrote. These words resonate with a timeless truth. Solitude isn't about loneliness. It's about finding companionship within ourselves, away from the distractions of the world. Thoreau's experiment at Walden was not a retreat in the conventional sense, but an advance into the depths of his own mind and soul. He sought solitude not as an end, but as a means to live more deliberately and authentically. In the quiet of the woods, with only the rustle of leaves and the ripple of the pond to accompany him, Thoreau engaged in profound self-reflection. He used his solitude as a mirror, not just to see himself, but to understand himself, to scrutinize his values, question his purpose, and explore his place in the universe. This was not a passive withdrawal, but an active engagement with life's most essential truths. How often do we, in our busy lives, take the time to engage with our thoughts in such a deliberate way? How often do we embrace solitude as a friend, rather than fear it as an enemy? In today's world, where the idea of being alone is often equated with being lonely, Thoreau's reflections offer a counterintuitive but profoundly practical perspective. Imagine for a moment, stepping away from the constant buzz of your smartphone and the demands of daily life to simply be with yourself. What could you discover? How might you grow? Thoreau challenges us to embrace solitude not as a state of absence, but as a presence, an opportunity to reconnect with the essence of who we are. He suggests that in solitude we find clarity, we find strength, we find the courage to live a more authentic life. Consider the story of a modern-day entrepreneur, overwhelmed by the demands of his business, his phone constantly buzzing with emails and messages. One day he decides to take a break and spend a weekend alone in a cabin, disconnected from the world. At first, the silence is deafening, the absence of his usual distractions unsettling. But as the hours pass, he begins to feel a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. In the stillness, he gains insights into his work, his relationships, and most importantly, himself. By the end of the weekend, he returns to his life with renewed clarity and purpose. This is the power of solitude that Thoreau spoke of, a tool for self-exploration, self-transformation, and ultimately, self-realization. Thoreau's experience at Walden Pond teaches us that solitude is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. It's a pathway to deliberate living, a chance to confront the essential facts of life without the distractions of society. It's a space where we can commune with nature, contemplate the mysteries of existence, and engage more deeply with our own thoughts. So how might you, in your own life, create moments of solitude? How might you use these moments to engage more deeply with yourself and the world around you? The lesson here is clear. In a world filled with distractions, solitude can be a powerful ally in our journey towards living more authentically and deliberately. Embrace it, and you may find that the person you're searching for in the world has been within you all along. Let's explore a more profound lesson of solitude through the lens of one of history's most resilient figures, Viktor Frankl. Born in 1905, Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor whose life story and philosophical insights offer us invaluable guidance on the art of being alone. Frankl is best known for his development of logotherapy, a therapeutic approach grounded in the belief that the fundamental driving force in human nature is the search for meaning in life. His seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning, is more than just a memoir of his harrowing experiences in Nazi concentration camps during World War II. It is a philosophical treatise that intertwines personal suffering with universal truths, demonstrating that even in the darkest times, one can find meaning through introspection and purpose. So, what can we learn from Frankl about solitude and the search for meaning? According to Frankl, meaning in life can be discovered in three primary ways: through the creation of a work or the performance of a deed, through experiencing something or encountering someone, and crucially, through the attitude we adopt towards unavoidable suffering. It is this third path where solitude plays a pivotal role. In the isolation of the concentration camps, where Frankl was stripped of everything, his freedom, his dignity, his loved ones, he found that solitude, rather than being a source of despair, could become a powerful tool for introspection and self-discovery. Imagine for a moment the unimaginable conditions of a concentration camp: deprivation, brutality, the constant presence of death. In such a place, solitude could easily have led to despair, yet Frankl used it as a sanctuary for his mind. In those quiet, solitary moments, he reflected on his past, recalled cherished memories of loved ones, and mentally rehearsed conversations he longed to have in the future. These acts of mental defiance were not just coping mechanisms. They were ways for him to retain his sense of purpose and to nurture a spark of hope amidst overwhelming darkness. Solitude in this context was not an escape from reality, but a means of confronting it with a resilient spirit. Frankl famously said, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." This quote encapsulates the essence of his philosophy and underscores the role of solitude in the human experience. When all external freedoms are stripped away, what remains is our inner freedom, the freedom to choose our response to whatever life throws at us. Solitude, then, becomes a space where we can exercise this freedom most fully, where we can engage in the deep reflective work necessary to align our attitudes with our values, and where we can cultivate the strength to endure and transcend suffering. But let's pause for a moment and consider this. How do you perceive solitude in your own life? Do you see it as a burden, a source of loneliness, or as an opportunity for growth and self-reflection? Frankl's experience teaches us that solitude is not inherently negative. It is our attitude towards it that shapes its impact on our lives. In a world that often equates being alone with being lonely, how might we reframe solitude as a positive force, a chance to reconnect with our inner selves and to find meaning in our lives? This idea is not unique to Frankl. Throughout history, many philosophers and thinkers have recognized the value of solitude. The Stoics, for instance, emphasized the importance of self-reflection and inner dialogue as a means of understanding and mastering one's emotions. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often wrote in his Meditations about the need for solitude to think deeply and to connect with one's true self. He advised, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This sentiment resonates with Frankl's belief that in solitude, we find the space to explore our thoughts, confront our fears, and ultimately choose our own path. Yet, the challenge remains. How can we, in our busy, often chaotic lives, carve out moments of solitude for ourselves? How can we use these moments to reflect on our experiences, to gain clarity on our life's purpose, and to cultivate a resilient mindset? The key lies in intentionality. Solitude, when approached with intention, can become a powerful practice, a time to disconnect from the distractions of the world and reconnect with the core of our being. It is in these moments that we can ask ourselves the important questions. What gives my life meaning? How can I align my actions with my values? What attitudes can I choose that will help me navigate life's inevitable challenges? Let's also consider how we can apply Frankl's insights into our daily lives. When we face difficulties, how often do we take the time to sit in solitude and reflect on our response to those challenges? Do we allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by external pressures? Or do we use solitude as a means to regain our composure and to choose our attitude consciously? Frankl's life is a testament to the power of solitude in fostering resilience. His ability to find meaning, even in the most horrific circumstances, was not just a matter of chance but the result of deliberate, thoughtful reflection conducted in solitude. Viktor Frankl's journey teaches us that solitude is not something to be feared or avoided. It is a vital aspect of the human experience that can lead to profound personal growth. In solitude, we are given the opportunity to explore our inner worlds, to confront our deepest fears, and to discover the meaning that lies within us. So I leave you with this open-ended question. How will you embrace solitude in your life? Will you see it as an empty void? Or will you recognize it as a space for reflection, self-discovery, and the cultivation of a resilient spirit? As Frankl and many philosophers before him have shown, the choice is yours. The great philosopher Viktor Frankl once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." This timeless insight unveils a powerful truth. Solitude, when embraced, can be a transformative force that shapes our character and defines our purpose. Frankl's profound observation underscores the immense power we possess, even in the depths of solitude, to choose our response to life's most challenging circumstances. It's a reminder that in those moments when we feel most isolated, we are given a unique opportunity to reflect deeply on our values, beliefs, and the very essence of who we are. This perspective is not merely theoretical. It is a lived experience, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Frankl, who endured the horrors of the Holocaust, found meaning in the midst of unimaginable suffering, demonstrating that even in the most desperate solitude, we can preserve our dignity and find purpose. As Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This quote aligns perfectly with Frankl's teachings, emphasizing that the true battle is within ourselves, not in the uncontrollable external world. In today's fast-paced society, where distractions are omnipresent and the fear of being alone can drive us to seek constant connection, it's crucial to understand that solitude is not a curse but a gift. It is in these quiet moments, free from external noise, that we can engage in the deep introspection necessary for personal growth. Solitude allows us to confront our inner fears, reassess our goals, and realign with our true purpose. It offers a space where we can reconnect with our innermost values and emerge stronger, more resilient, and more in tune with our life's mission. This concept is eloquently captured by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who said, "Man is disturbed not by things, but by the views he takes of them." Solitude gives us the chance to change our perspective, to view our circumstances through a lens of growth and self-improvement rather than despair and helplessness. Moreover, solitude provides the fertile ground from which creativity and innovation can spring forth. Many of history's greatest thinkers and creators have harnessed the power of solitude to produce their most impactful work. By embracing the quiet, we open ourselves to new ideas and insights that might be drowned out in the constant noise of everyday life. It is within this silence that we can cultivate the mental clarity and focus needed to pursue our passions with renewed vigor. In the words of Seneca, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Solitude, therefore, is not time wasted but time wisely invested in the cultivation of our inner world. In our modern lives, where the fear of being alone can lead to a relentless pursuit of external validation, it is essential to reframe our understanding of solitude. Instead of viewing it as a void, we must see it as a canvas upon which we can paint the most authentic version of ourselves. By choosing to embrace solitude, we take control of our narrative, crafting a story of resilience, purpose, and unwavering inner strength. As Frankl's life and teachings remind us, even in our loneliest moments, we hold within us the power to shape our destiny, to find purpose, and to navigate life with courage and resilience. So the next time you find yourself alone, remember that this is not a moment of emptiness but a moment ripe with potential, a chance to reconnect with your true self and emerge stronger, wiser, and more resolute in your journey. If you've made it this far, you're embracing the power of solitude. Drop a comment saying, "I find strength in solitude," to show you're committed to mastering the art of being alone. Stick around. The journey to inner peace is just beginning. As we journey through the thoughts of some of history's greatest minds on the art of being alone, Let's pause in 17th century France to meet Blaise Pascal, a figure whose wisdom echoes powerfully across the centuries. Pascal was not just a philosopher. He was a mathematician, a physicist, and a deeply religious thinker who devoted much of his intellectual energy to understanding human nature, morality, and belief. His reflections on solitude remain particularly striking, especially encapsulated in his famous assertion, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." This statement, bold as it may be, reveals profound insights into the human condition, especially our relationship with solitude. Pascal observed that our discomfort with solitude, our almost desperate need for constant diversion and distraction, is a clear indicator of our dissatisfaction with ourselves. It's as though we are running away from something, unwilling to face the thoughts and feelings that emerge in the stillness of our own company. According to Pascal, this inability to sit quietly with ourselves is not just a minor flaw, but a fundamental issue that underpins many of our problems. When we avoid solitude, we often make impulsive decisions, seek validation and happiness from others, and ultimately, lose touch with who we really are. But what if, as Pascal suggests, we could change this? What if we could become comfortable with being alone, allowing ourselves the space to think, reflect, and truly understand our inner world? In one of his most famous reflections from Pensées, Pascal notes, "I have discovered that all the unhappiness of men arises from one single fact, that they cannot stay quietly in their own chamber." This line reinforces his earlier sentiment and challenges us to reconsider how we view solitude. To Pascal, solitude isn't just a physical state of being alone. It's a mental and emotional space that offers a unique opportunity for growth and self-understanding. To bring this idea into a modern context, think about how often we reach for our phones the moment we have a second of downtime. Whether it's waiting in line, sitting in a cafe, or even during a brief pause in a conversation, we fill the silence with social media, texts, or anything that keeps us from sitting quietly with our thoughts. It's as if we're trying to escape the very act of being alone, just as Pascal observed centuries ago. Yet, what would happen if we embraced these moments of solitude instead? If we took the time to sit quietly, even for a few minutes, without reaching for distractions, could we begin to uncover deeper truths about ourselves? Imagine the clarity you might gain, the inner peace that could emerge if you allowed yourself the space to think and reflect without interruption. Perhaps in those quiet moments, you would confront long-ignored thoughts, feelings, or desires. Maybe you'd start to understand your motivations better, or even find solutions to problems that have been troubling you. Solitude, as Pascal saw it, is not something to fear, but a powerful tool for introspection, self-discovery, and personal growth. So, as you go about your daily life, I invite you to consider how you approach solitude. Do you shy away from it, filling every quiet moment with noise and activity? Or do you embrace it as an opportunity to delve deeper into your own mind and soul? The next time you find yourself alone, try sitting quietly, without distractions, and see what arises. You might discover that within the stillness lies the key to greater self-understanding, contentment, and perhaps even happiness. The lesson Pascal offers us is clear. Solitude is not a state to be avoided, but a space to be cherished. It's in those quiet moments, alone with our thoughts, that we can truly grow, understand ourselves, and ultimately find peace. Let's take a moment to explore a profound concept that bridges the realms of psychology, philosophy, and the very core of human existence. The idea of being alone, a concept that has both terrified and enlightened many, is central to our personal growth and understanding. It's not just about physical solitude. It's about the kind of deep, introspective solitude that allows us to confront the hidden aspects of our own psyche. This journey into solitude, and by extension into ourselves, is beautifully captured by the work of Carl Jung, a towering figure in psychology whose insights continue to resonate deeply in our lives. Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, pioneered what we now know as analytical psychology. His theories have left an indelible mark not just on psychology, but also on philosophy, anthropology, and even the arts. Jung introduced the idea of the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of experiences and archetypes that connect all of humanity. And he also delved into the process of individuation, which is central to our discussion today. Individuation, as Jung described it, is the process through which a person becomes their truest self, a journey of self-realization that allows us to integrate the conscious and unconscious parts of our mind, thereby achieving a sense of wholeness. But what does this have to do with being alone? The answer lies in the transformative power of solitude. Jung believed that solitude is not just a state of being alone. It's a crucial environment for introspection and self-reflection, both of which are necessary for individuation. In the quietude of solitude, away from the distractions and demands of the external world, we can confront what Jung called our shadow, the hidden, often repressed parts of our personality. The shadow is everything we don't want to acknowledge about ourselves, our fears, weaknesses, and undesirable traits. Jung famously said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." This acceptance is the cornerstone of individuation, and it is through solitude that we gain the courage to face our shadow and integrate it into our conscious life. Solitude, then, becomes a sanctuary for this inner work. It's where we can listen to the quiet whispers of our subconscious, where our dreams and buried emotions come to the surface. It's a place where we can begin to understand the darker aspects of our psyche, not with judgment, but with the compassion that leads to true self-understanding. Jung's words, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people," remind us that by facing our own shadows, we can cultivate empathy and understanding for the shadows in others. This is not just a psychological exercise. It's a deeply philosophical and, one could argue, spiritual process that touches on what it means to be human. But let's pause for a moment and ask ourselves, what does it really mean to accept ourselves completely? And how can we create the space in our lives for the kind of solitude that fosters this acceptance? These questions are not just rhetorical. They are invitations for you to reflect on your own life. Have you ever found yourself in a quiet moment, away from the noise of daily life, where you suddenly confront a part of yourself you didn't want to see? Perhaps it was an uncomfortable truth about your behavior, or a forgotten memory that brought with it a wave of emotions. How did you respond to that moment? Did you push it away? Or did you sit with it, allowing it to teach you something about yourself? Jung's concept of the shadow is particularly relevant here. The shadow is an unconscious aspect of our personality, the part that the conscious mind does not identify with. It's everything we have repressed, neglected, or ignored, our fears, our desires, our flaws, and it's often in moments of solitude that the shadow makes itself known. This can be a frightening experience, but it is also an opportunity for profound growth. By bringing the shadow into the light of consciousness, we can begin to understand and integrate it, which is essential for becoming whole. Imagine for a moment a life without this confrontation with the shadow. We would be like actors on a stage, playing roles that don't truly reflect who we are, hiding behind masks that prevent us from engaging with life in a meaningful way. Our relationships would be shallow, our self-understanding limited, and our potential for growth stunted. It's through the process of individuation facilitated by solitude that we can move beyond these limitations. Yet solitude in today's world is often undervalued or even feared. We live in an age of constant connectivity, where being alone is sometimes equated with being lonely or unproductive. But solitude is not loneliness. It's not about withdrawing from the world permanently, but about taking the necessary time to retreat inward, to engage in a dialogue with ourselves. As Jung suggested, it's in these moments of introspection that we come to know ourselves more fully, and in doing so we can return to the world more grounded, more compassionate, and more complete. So, I ask you now, when was the last time you allowed yourself the gift of solitude? Not just a few minutes here and there, but a true period of introspection where you could listen to your inner voice without distraction. How might your life change if you made space for this kind of solitude regularly? Could it help you face parts of yourself that you've been avoiding? Could it deepen your relationships with others by helping you understand your own complexities? These are the kinds of questions that can lead to significant personal transformation, and they are at the heart of what Jung's work teaches us about the art of being alone. Solitude is not just a physical state, it's a psychological necessity. It's a space where we can do the hard work of individuation, where we can confront our shadow, and where we can ultimately become who we are meant to be. So the next time you find yourself alone, embrace it as an opportunity for growth. Remember Jung's words and let them guide you. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But in that acceptance lies the key to your true self, and with it, the power to live a more authentic and fulfilled life. In the stillness of solitude, we are granted a rare opportunity to truly meet ourselves, to bring forth the shadow that lies buried deep within our psyche, waiting for recognition. This process, as Carl Jung so profoundly emphasized, is not one for the faint of heart. It demands immense courage, a steadfast patience, and an unwavering willingness to confront the uncomfortable truths that reside within. The path to understanding our shadow is often challenging, yet it is an essential journey if we are to achieve a fuller, more authentic self-awareness. Jung poignantly observed that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This statement underscores the importance of solitude as a sacred space where we can confront and integrate the darker aspects of our being. By doing so, we seize the reins of our own destiny, transforming the unconscious forces that once guided us unknowingly into conscious, empowered choices that shape the course of our lives. Moreover, solitude offers us the invaluable gift of engaging with our dreams, a central element in Jung's theories. Dreams serve as a bridge to our unconscious, providing symbolic representations of our deepest conflicts, desires, and untapped potential. In the quiet embrace of solitude, we are given the chance to reflect on these nocturnal visions, to decode the intricate symbols they present, and to uncover insights that guide us toward greater self-understanding. The act of deciphering our dreams within the context of solitude is akin to holding a mirror to our soul, revealing the truths we might otherwise overlook in the noise of daily life. Jung himself found great solace in solitude, famously stating, "Solitude is for me a fount of healing which makes my life worth living." This simple yet profound declaration highlights the therapeutic power of being alone, where one can tend to the psychological wounds accumulated over a lifetime, mend the fragmented parts of the self, and nurture a healthier, more balanced mind. Solitude in this light is not merely a condition of being alone. It is a fertile ground for introspection, self-discovery, and profound personal growth. It is within this sacred space that we can converse with our unconscious, face the shadows that linger, and embark on the transformative journey of individuation, a journey that leads to a deeper, more meaningful existence. As we consider these insights in the context of modern life, it becomes clear that solitude is not something to be feared or avoided, but rather embraced as an essential component of our well-being. In a world that often glorifies constant connectivity and external validation, choosing to spend time alone to reflect and to engage with our inner world becomes an act of defiance, a reclaiming of our true selves. By integrating the wisdom of Jung with the timeless teachings of Stoicism, we are reminded that the path to self-mastery is paved not only with action, but also with moments of stillness. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca wisely noted, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Let us therefore cherish the gift of solitude, not as a retreat from life, but as a means to live it more fully, with greater clarity, purpose, and peace. In solitude, we do not merely confront our shadow, we discover the light within, illuminating the path toward a life well lived. Let's explore the profound wisdom shared by Jordan Peterson, a celebrated Canadian psychologist whose insights on solitude and self-reflection resonate deeply with those navigating the complexities of modern life. Peterson emphasizes that solitude is not just a state of being alone. It is a vital practice for nurturing self-esteem, preserving mental health, and building psychological resilience. In a world buzzing with constant distractions, he argues that taking time for oneself is essential to maintaining sanity and understanding one's true self. In his influential book, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, Peterson vividly describes the power of solitude in personal transformation. He writes, "If you don't know where you are precisely, you could be anywhere. You're in chaos. It's out of that chaos that new being can emerge." This quote encapsulates the idea that solitude offers a unique opportunity to step away from the noise and confusion of daily life, providing a sacred space for introspection and growth. When you allow yourself to detach from external influences, you open the door to discovering who you truly are and who you can become. It's in these quiet moments of solitude that the seeds of a stronger, more authentic self are sown. Peterson also draws a crucial link between solitude and psychological well-being. He suggests that in a world filled with relentless stimuli, it is solitude that allows us to confront and conquer the chaos within. In his article, The Necessity of Virtue, he asserts, "The development of character necessitates solitude. It is in solitude that the battle with chaos is fought and won." Here Peterson points out that only by facing our fears and limitations in solitude can we gather the strength and wisdom needed to face life's challenges. Think of solitude as a training ground, where you confront your inner demons and emerge with the mental fortitude to tackle the difficulties life throws your way. This concept is particularly relevant today, where the pressure to stay constantly connected can feel overwhelming. Imagine a professional who's always plugged into work, social media, or the demands of others. Without time to retreat into solitude, they risk losing sight of who they are and what truly matters to them. Solitude, therefore, isn't just about being alone. It's about creating a space where you can recharge, reflect, and refocus your energies on what truly counts. In his book, Maps of Meaning, The Architecture of Belief, Peterson further delves into how solitude contributes to stability and resilience. He writes, "You are stable and able to tolerate your own limited perspective, and the terrible uncertainty that this brings. You remain stable despite your many limitations and in the face of your vulnerability." This idea suggests that by embracing solitude, you confront your own vulnerabilities head-on. Instead of running from them, you learn to coexist with them, growing stronger and more resilient in the process. This journey of self-examination doesn't just benefit you, it ripples outward, enabling you to support and uplift others. So, how can we apply these lessons in our own lives? Start by carving out regular time for solitude, whether it's through meditation, journaling, or simply sitting in silence. Use this time to reflect on your thoughts, your actions, and your goals. Ask yourself, what do I need to let go of to become the person I want to be? What fears am I avoiding that I need to confront? By engaging in this practice, you'll begin to build the mental strength and clarity needed to navigate life's ups and downs. Jordan Peterson's teachings remind us that solitude is not something to be feared, but embraced. It is in these moments of quiet reflection that we can confront our inner chaos, build resilience, and emerge as our true selves. By making solitude a regular part of your life, you will find not only a path to personal growth, but also the strength to face the world with renewed confidence and purpose. The lesson here is simple yet profound. Solitude is the forge in which the strongest, most authentic version of yourself is crafted. Are you ready to step into that quiet space and see who you can become? Picture you are standing at the edge of a vast, still lake, the surface smooth and reflective like a mirror. In this quiet moment, it's just you and the calm waters. This serene solitude offers a chance to look inward, to see yourself clearly, without the noise and distractions of the outside world. This is the essence of what Jordan Peterson, a prominent psychologist and philosopher, emphasizes in his exploration of solitude. But this isn't just about being alone in the physical sense. It's about embracing solitude as a crucial part of your journey towards self-discovery, resilience, and fulfillment. Peterson argues that solitude is not merely a state of being alone, but a powerful tool for personal growth. When you are alone, truly alone, you have the opportunity to face yourself without filters. It is here, in the quiet, that you can engage in deep introspection and self-reflection. You might ask yourself, who am I really? What are my strengths, my weaknesses, my fears? These questions are not easy, and they require honesty and courage to confront. Yet it is through this confrontation that you can begin to understand yourself on a deeper level. Think about it. How often do you allow yourself to sit in silence without reaching for your phone or turning on the TV? How often do you allow your mind to wander, to explore your thoughts and emotions without judgment? It's in these moments of solitude that you can gain insights into your true self. By examining your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, you can identify patterns that may be holding you back or pushing you forward. This kind of self-knowledge is invaluable because it lays the foundation for personal growth and resilience. Resilience, according to Peterson, is the ability to bounce back from adversity. It's about facing challenges head-on and coming out stronger on the other side. But how do you build resilience? One way is through solitude. When you spend time alone, you learn to rely on yourself. You become your own source of strength, rather than depending on others to validate your worth or guide your decisions. This doesn't mean you should shut out the world. Rather, it means cultivating a strong inner core that can withstand the storms of life. Consider the words of the Stoic philosopher Seneca, who said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." When you are alone, you have the space to examine your fears and worries, to see them for what they truly are, often exaggerated or unfounded. Solitude allows you to separate the real threats from the imagined ones, giving you a clearer perspective on the challenges you face. By doing this, you can approach life with a calm and steady mind, ready to handle whatever comes your way. Solitude also offers the opportunity for creativity and innovation. Many of history's greatest thinkers, from Albert Einstein to Virginia Woolf, have credited their solitary moments with sparking their most brilliant ideas. When you are alone, your mind is free to wander, to make connections, and to explore new possibilities. Without the constant input from others, you can tap into your unique perspective and creativity. Ask yourself, what ideas have I overlooked because I was too busy or too distracted to notice them? In solitude, you can rediscover your creative potential and bring fresh ideas to life. But solitude isn't always easy. In today's hyper-connected world, the idea of being alone can be daunting, even frightening. We are constantly bombarded with messages, notifications, and the pressure to be constantly available. Yet Peterson suggests that it is precisely in these moments of discomfort that the most profound growth occurs. By embracing the discomfort of solitude, you can break free from the need for external validation and find a deeper sense of self-worth. This brings us to the question, how do you embrace solitude in a way that is beneficial rather than isolating? The key is to approach it with intention. Solitude should not be about escaping the world or avoiding relationships. Instead, it should be seen as a time to reconnect with yourself, to reflect on your life, and to realign your goals with your true values. It's about creating a balance between being with others and being with yourself. Marcus Aurelius, another great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This suggests that the most important journey you can take is the one within. As you explore the art of being alone, consider the ways in which solitude can enrich your life. What insights might you gain from spending time alone with your thoughts? How might solitude help you become more resilient, creative, and self-aware? These are not just philosophical questions. They are practical ones that can have a profound impact on your day-to-day life. Jordan Peterson's exploration of solitude is not just a theoretical exercise, it is a call to action. It is an invitation to step away from the noise and chaos of everyday life, and to spend time in quiet contemplation. It is a reminder that solitude is not something to be feared but embraced as a powerful tool for personal growth and fulfillment. So I leave you with this question. What could you discover about yourself if you allowed yourself to truly be alone? How might your life change if you made solitude a regular part of your routine? The answers to these questions could lead you on a transformative journey toward a deeper understanding of yourself and a more fulfilling existence. As we bring this discussion to a close, I encourage you to truly reflect on the profound lessons we've uncovered about solitude from some of the greatest philosophers and psychologists. Solitude is often misunderstood in our fast-paced, noise-filled world, but it holds the potential to be a sanctuary for self-discovery, personal growth, and deep psychological well-being. Instead of viewing it as something to be feared or avoided, we can reframe solitude as a powerful tool that allows us to confront our inner conflicts, embrace our vulnerabilities, and carve out a path toward a more authentic and fulfilling life. Embracing solitude requires courage. It is an affirmation of our own worth and a testament to our belief that within ourselves lies the solace and wisdom we seek. In those quiet moments, free from external distractions, we are given the space to nurture our mental and emotional well-being, to listen to the whispers of our soul, and to connect with the deepest parts of our being. Solitude is not about being alone in the world. It's about being fully present with ourselves. So, I ask you to take a moment and consider your own relationship with solitude. How do you perceive those moments when you are alone? Do you welcome them as opportunities for reflection, growth, and self-discovery? Or do you find yourself shying away from them, filling the silence with distractions? Reflecting on these questions can open the door to cultivating a more intentional and meaningful relationship with solitude. In a world that is constantly demanding our attention, where noise and distractions are the norm, choosing to embrace solitude is a radical act of self-care. It's an act of reclaiming your own time, space, and thoughts. It's an act of self-love and compassion, where you allow yourself to listen to your inner voice, honor your true needs and desires, and chart a path that aligns with your deepest values and aspirations. As you continue on your personal journey of self-discovery, remember that solitude is not a sign of weakness or isolation. Rather, it is a powerful tool for personal growth, self-empowerment, and inner peace. Embrace the gift of solitude, and let it guide you towards self-acceptance, self-realization, and a deeper connection with yourself. May you find solace, inspiration, and resilience in the depths of solitude. May it become a trusted companion on your journey toward a more intentional and fulfilled life. And as you apply these principles to your daily routine, I'd love to hear how they resonate with you. How has embracing solitude impacted your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue this important conversation. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stoic in Your Life for more content on living with wisdom, purpose, and inner peace. Together, we can build a community that supports and uplifts each other as we navigate the complexities of life with courage and grace.